You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump lays a paper trail to his next great prosecution, Whistleblower, based on an article by Matthew Rossett. Trump is turning Clemency into corporate subpoena immunity, mercy for the powerful. The source describes a plain corruption story dressed up as presidential discretion. Trump is using pardons not just on people but on companies, fines, debts, and competitive liabilities. That is not mercy. It is a conversion of executive power into a market instrument, where political favor can raise legal and financial consequences. Miles Taylor's warning matters less as personality drama than as a map of the machinery. The point is not that Trump found a novel legal theory. The point is that he found a way to combine powers the presidency already has been using transactionally. Who actually holds power? The institutional power sits with Trump, not with the convicted shop owner, the crippled executives, the lobbyists, or the media figures trying to narrate this as an eccentric use of clemency. Trump can pardon individuals, wipe out penalties attached to companies, influence regulation, affect contracts, and open or close investigations. That is concentrated executive leverage over an entire political economy. The source is clear about the asymmetry. A president can make criminal liability, regulatory burden, and business competition disappear for favored actors. That is not administrative noise. That is state power being routed towards private advantage. The decision was the corruption. The decision maker is Trump. The enabling condition is everyone around him who treats this as another weird Trump story instead of a record of abuse. The article's examples are blunt. Ryan Lalone and Days of Freak LLC, Arthur Hayes split MEX executives, 9 companies and counting, nearly $200 million in wiped out penalties. That is the political fact pattern. The pardon power is being stretched into a corporate pardon racket. The source even notes the cottage industry forming around access to clemency. When wealthy clients pay firms to hunt for pardons, the state stops looking like a legal system and starts looking like a purpose. The misdirection is the point. The usual coverage tries to frame this as Trump being unpredictable, impulsive, or merely loyal to his allies. That framing is too soft. It hides intent inside personality. The source gives a better explanation: deliberate monetization. The public is invited to focus on the weirdness of the cases, the spectacle of the pardon, the personalities of the beneficiaries. But the real story is simpler and uglier. Trump is building a system where legal exposure becomes negotiable for the connected. The law is still there for everyone else. For the favored few, it becomes a fee schedule. What this reveals: this is not a story about a president being lenient. It is a story about executive office as an engine of selective impunity. Once pardons can be paired with regulatory favor, contract power, and investigative discretion, clemency stops being an exception to punishment and becomes a mechanism for class discipline. That is the larger pattern of authoritarian governance that not always announces itself with tanks or uniforms. Sometimes it arrives as a paperwork machine that rewards lobbyists, pardons insiders, and teaches everyone else that legalities is conditional on proximity to power. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternate for today's article, with the automated voice of Diana. Thanks for listening.